Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Chairman Alexander and Ranking Member Murray for holding this hearing. I know he stepped out to vote, but I want to thank the chair for his service and his example as a committee chair. And I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. And I want to especially thank you all for wearing your masks, even though you're 6 feet apart, because there has even been some confusion in this body about what the best practice is when we're inside with others. So thank you for the example you're setting. I am concerned that Americans are losing confidence in the federal government's COVID-19 vaccine review process. An ABC poll from this past weekend found that 69% of Americans will not have confidence in the president vouching for a vaccine. And we've seen other data reflecting that lack of confidence in vaccine approval process. FDA and CDC have existing vaccine review processes that are considered the gold standard by public health experts all around the globe. We have to make sure that these proven review processes take place in a transparent way, free from political influence. So let me start with a question to you, Dr. Hahn. There is widespread concern about the independence of FDA's COVID-19 vaccine review process, in large part due to your own actions and inaccurate statements over the past several months. Last week, you received a letter from more than 90 physician groups, doctors, and public health experts asking you to ensure that any vaccine approvals or authorizations are based on facts and science and free from political influence. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to enter this letter into the record without objection.
Without objection.
Thank you. Dr. Hahn, I appreciate the work that the FDA has done to draft new guidance for vaccine products seeking emergency use authorization. I look forward to reading that document. I'd like to ask a couple of clarifying questions based on what you've outlined earlier in your testimony. In addition to the general meeting scheduled for October, will the guidance require that FDA's Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee hold meetings, review clinical trial data, and release their findings to the public for each vaccine candidate?
Senator Hassan, we are committed absolutely to having meetings that will be scheduled. We'll be flexible about those of the Vaccine Advisory Committee. And as I mentioned in my remarks, they will be transparent. The clinical data and summary that we provide the committee will be transparent and known, and it will be public.
Right. What I'm asking for is, will you do it for each of the vaccine products?
Yes, Senator.
And will the findings be made public before the FDA approves or authorizes any vaccine product?
It will be a public process. The vote, the discussion, and the recommendations will be public, and we will incorporate those and then make our decision.
All right, so it'll happen before?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now to Dr. Redfield. My office has heard from clinicians across the country about the importance that they place on CDC recommendations when determining whether they are comfortable giving a vaccine to their patients. I talked with a long-serving and practicing pediatrician in New Hampshire yesterday, and one of her concerns is how will they know about what dosages to use for children, for instance. Will CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices meet publicly, review data, and issue public recommendations, again, for each COVID-19 vaccine before it enters the market, so healthcare providers are confident giving these vaccines to their patients?
Very important that the Advisory Committee Immunization Practice will conduct their deliberations in public. The only caveat is when there's national security interest, which should not be the case here, or if there's proprietary information on the commercial side. But you should anticipate this will be a public discussion.
So I'm going to ask you for the same commitments I asked Dr. Hahn. Each product.
Each product.
And before the approval. It will be made public, but the recommendations will be made public before the approval.
Yeah, the ACIP will make those recommendations after the FDA recommends an EUA or a BLA. Then they will deliberate how the vaccine should be used in the United States, and that will happen in public.
Before they are distributed?
Before it's recommended to be used for the American public.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Fauci, do you believe that the existing FDA and CDC advisory committees should conduct an independent, transparent, evidence-based review of safety and efficacy data for each vaccine product seeking approval or emergency use authorization? And could those independent meetings help improve public confidence? We've heard commitments about them. I just would love your comments about it.
Yes, I agree, Senator, with Dr. Hahn, that that is a process that occurs, and they do have an independent look at that, and they are advisory to the FDA. The FDA makes the ultimate decision, but what they do will be public. And as I have said myself, not only do you have a very qualified advisory committee in VRPAC, but you also have the entire scientific community that is going to be scrutinizing this because it will be made public. And for that reason, I have confidence in the process.
Well, I thank you, and I thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Murkowski and I have legislation that would ensure that the processes that you've committed to will be followed, and I look forward to working with you on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hassan. Senator Romney.